I became really interested in infant mental health mostly because of the impact. That's really what drew me in. So the idea that by investing early that we could ultimately influence and get and reap the benefits for so many years later in life is what really got me interested initially in really early childhood work. Whole Child International, which I founded in 2004, and Whole Child is really was at its very beginnings was focused exclusively on creating relationship for children in some of the most extreme situations of deprivation, really, in developing country orphanages. The idea behind it was that by creating change within the institution, ultimately really to focus on the child's experience of relationship, that we could hugely improve outcomes. And we did a lot of third-party evaluation, so we've always invested in a major university third-party evaluating our work to measure impact. And some of the results surprised even us in terms of how quickly we saw turnaround of some children. So when we did baseline evaluation of our initial work in Nicaragua, which was in a number of orphanages in Nicaragua, the baseline was really shocking. So 98% of the children were scoring in the bottom 2% of overall development. So the children were ultimately really not doing well, and that really speaks to really a lot of what was going on in terms of lack of relationship. So the children were being cared for sort of in a typical institutional way, with a focus on cleanliness and efficiency, a lot of staff rotations. So the average child was coming into contact with 50 to 70 caregivers before they turned 5, which of course allowed no possibility of really forming solid long-term relationships, and the quality of relationships that are in transit is often, lower, just by definition, by virtue of the fact that the caregiver is not invested in the relationship. So our program really focuses on all aspects that are going to ultimately influence the child's experience of relationship. So we train the directors of the centers to really educate them in what we know about brain development and what we know about how much this experience or lack of quality relationships will ultimately impact a child's ability to go on to be a productive member of society, how it will impact their ability to go on to learn, to do well in school. So that's really where we start, by education of the decision makers to get everybody on board. Then we restructure the institution to ultimately allow for relationships. So stop the rotation of children between group to group, assign primary care so that the children actually have a primary point of contact in an adult relationship, reduce group size by as much as possible. So none of our program really in any way proposes to increase resources to the institution. So we're looking to work all within the existing constraints. So we're not increasing number of caregivers, we're not changing the building, we're not implementing changes to the nutrition. But if you've got a group of 20 children and 2 caregivers caring for those children, if we reduce that group 1 to 10, then that's an entirely different experience for the child of being in a group of 10 versus being in a group of 20. So all of these sorts of changes to the structure of the institution that ultimately are designed to improve the quality of the interaction between the caregiver and child at their core. And then we provide caregiver training to the caregivers so that they understand again the importance of the interaction that they're having with the children, so that they really have the opportunity to focus on the caregiving moments that they're going to have. So that the caregivers need to feed and bathe and change the children regularly during the day. And what we do is we train the caregiver really to look at those caregiving activities as opportunities for connection. And how do I maximize the relationship building potential in each one of those interactions? And so at the core, that's what our program is about. And we were really excited. Of course, we knew it was going to have an impact. Of course, we knew the children would improve, but the degree to which they did surprised even us. We saw a 47% increase in children's height and a 37% increase in children's weight, again, without touching the nutritional component. So they were not eating more. Simply by changing and really improving the quality of the interaction that they were having with their caregivers and making sure that they had the opportunity to form relationships. We saw that kind of change to their physical well-being. We also saw a drop in the number of children that were scoring as though intellectually disabled. That went from 82% of children scoring as though intellectually disabled all the way down to 15% of children scoring as though intellectually disabled. So if you can extrapolate the impact on investment for that, that's really what I think, that's really the message that I really wish everyone could learn, because if you can extrapolate those numbers, a child that is scoring as though intellectually disabled and their prospects of holding down a job and being a contributing member to society are extremely low. And for relatively small investment, that you can increase the number of productive members of society in that very at-risk population from 82% to 15%, the economics on that are phenomenal. And I think that if we're really thinking about the long-term viability of our societies, then investing in early childhood really is a smart approach.